Hey church, it's great to see you this past weekend. And something we're trying to do with these video series is we want to begin to correlate them with our Sunday series. Because many of us, we're continuing to meet in small groups, and we just want to help our conversations to go even deeper in our walk with Christ. We're starting this series on King David, and I believe that there are so many things that we can learn from his life. Yeah, he was a great king, but he had very humble beginnings as a shepherd. He was a mighty warrior, but he struggled with doubt and fear and worry all the time. Yeah, he was a man after God's own heart, but he also committed adultery and had someone murdered as a result. He was a great leader, but there was turmoil within his home. He was not always the best father figure. There are a lot of things that we can learn from the life of David. And this first week, we're talking about overcoming giants. Now, while we might not be looking at 9-foot-tall warriors, there are many giants in our life that will overshadow us in the form of depression and anxiety and maybe relationships or fear. These are things that we have to battle. So what can we learn from David and apply to our own lives? I think the first is we need to hold firm to the promises of God. See, David was anointed king at a very early age, but he didn't become king overnight. There was a process that he had to follow. There were many problems in life that he faced, but he knew that every problem had a purpose. You see, that lion and that bear that he had to conquer was preparing him for that one day when he had to face a giant. Those sheep that he had to tend to as a shepherd was just preparing for the one day where he was going to have to tend to his sheep of Israel. See, every plan of God had a purpose, and every purpose might have problems, but he had to endure that. He had to trust the promises. You see, that's where he got his courage from. But when he was facing Goliath in the eyes, it wasn't this self-help type of courage. He was holding firm to say, no, God has appointed me as king over Israel, and he will deliver me in this situation. And likewise, in our own lives, we have to look at our giants, and we have to think of who Christ says we are and who he says that we are becoming so that we can overcome them. The second point I want you to get is this, though, is that we cannot view God as an underdog. So often we look at the story of David and Goliath and we say, man, David was the underdog in that story, but that's far from the truth. I think we can look a lot at the giants in our lives as the enemy of Satan. He looks so tall in our lives, and sometimes God can look so small like David did. But David was at the advantage. You see, in ancient wartime history, there were three types of fighters. You had your cavalry that would come in on horses. You had your infantry that would be the hand-to-hand combat, just like what Goliath was. And then you had your artillery, your people that were archers, your people with slings. See, David, he had a sling, and he was a master at it. And people say that people that were good at slings, they could hit their target at over 200 yards away. That they could throw that rock at 35 meters per second. They could take a bird out of the air with their rock and their sling. David was prepared. Even though the world might have seen this giant looming large in front of him, the victory was his. And just like that in your own life, you cannot view God as the underdog. The victory is already his. You just need to put your hope, your faith, and your trust in him, and he will overcome those giants. And so this week in our small groups, this week in our discussions, there are three questions that I want you to answer. And the first is this: what promises of God do you hold firm to in your life? Share that with one another to bring encouragement to one another. The second question is this: in what areas of your life have you been prepared for the future giants of tomorrow? What has God taken you through to where you are ready to overcome these giants? And then the last question: in what areas and what giants in your life do you view God as the underdog?